I am pleased to have an opportunity to introduce Dr. Arulselvan Santival, Department of Electronic Media and Mass Communication, Pondicherry University. Dr. Arulselvan is teaching communication in university since 1997. Before joining the university, he served as journalist for more than a decade. He also served as consultant to UNESCO on its media development project in northern Sri Lanka during the ceasefire period and established media resources and training center at University of Jaffna between 2003 to 2005. More than 15 publications also there in his credit, including two translated books. He has developed a MOOCs course on media and ethics with financial support from UGC CEC. He has also completed UGC funded a major research project, political mediated communication and general elections, watching the media during Parliament election 2014. With this short introduction, now I invite Dr. Arulselvan to give lecture on topic subtitling and dubbing practices. Now it's over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, team NTM and Professor Tariq Khan and all the participants for having me here. It's my pleasure to associate with the NTM, and this particular presentation will try to introduce you and familiarize you with the ideas of translation of movie text, whatever may be the audiovisual text. Actually, I have a couple of videos and I have a sample script and many things. To start with, I have to tell you about what is film, what is so special about translating the movie scripts, right? To begin with, I have to tell you that what are the myths we have, right? We have lot of conceptions and misconceptions about the films, and some of you may have very positive idea about films, whereas there are many things. I don't want to portray any negative picture about that, but there is a little thing that as an academic and a translator you have to know about film. So that so I have compiled a couple of quotes from the sayings of stalwarts in the film that who have worked for about 30, 40 years and one international acclaim. Academia is the death of cinema. That Werner Herzog is one of the popular filmmaker. Academia is the death of cinema. It is the very opposite of passion. Film is not the art of scholars, but of illiterates. This is one such a comment of Herzog. And if you look at the second one, cinema is the most beautiful fraud in the world. This has been Godard. Godard has said that it's one of the most beautiful fraud, right? And the popular filmmaker of our times that who said that through the careful manipulation and good storytelling, you can get everybody to clap at the same time. That it's a manipulation, careful, clever, intelligent manipulation, and along with the good storytelling. And another filmmaker called Truffaut, many of you have read about him. Film lovers are sick people. That it's too charging of film lovers, but it says that it is an argument that you have to trying to understand that what is behind or what is the other side of the film, right? And the next filmmaker, Lucas, he says that secret to film is that it is an illusion. We all know that it is a illusion of we have been making of illusionary ideas and trying to make us understand what is the story is, right? So what the research says, films can be a tremendously influential and extremely powerful vehicle for transferring values, ideas, information. So this is how that has been made us, we are all interested in film, be it right-wing people or both left-wing people, right from Lenin and right from the modern political leaders, and they all believe that because it is very powerful than any other medium transferring, a vehicle for transferring values, ideas, and information. And that's why that filmmakers and the film stars particularly, they are capable of commanding good faith. If you look at YouTube, you will see, you'll come to know that there are many followers for the celebrities because of the power it contains, right? And the power of the film to surprise and thrill the audience by offering uncommon visual perspectives in things, places, events, and people. We would have seen many things in the common life, but they surprise us being by seeing, by making the uncommon perspective, right? The perspective, the places and the events and people that we all know, they have been presenting it as if that something is new. So the ability to present a perfect self-contained illusion of reality on the screen. So this is the argument, right? Virtually all of the technical innovations, whatever it is, be it the 3D, be it color, be it sound advancement in sound, widescreen technology, and special effects, computer animation, all have contributed to the advancement of this kind of illusion making, right? This is how that I want to show you, and I have a quick show of the one of the small video. Yeah, that's what we are trying to make you understand, that everything is an illusion, right? In the world of film, that everything is we are, yeah, I'll stop this and if you are convinced that what we have been talking about is that film is a lot of illusionary effects and illusionary messages, illusionary kind of presentations are available to make us believe. The idea is to tell the story, right? To tell the story that we have been making use of all the technology, and film is one of the very powerful and very effective tool, right? And so film translation is a form of storytelling. So uh, this film that I cannot immediately play because it will take a lot of time. So normally we conduct the workshop for 3 hours, the same thing, but online has challenge. The challenge given to us is that we have to try to understand the same thing within 1 hour, right? So I'll skip on. So now I have a culturally and contextually loaded words, like we can start with one word called Pak occupied Kashmir, right? Pak occupied Kashmir is being used as this that is being used by, say, the Indian news media as that the place that our place has been occupied by some other country, so we call it Pak occupied Kashmir. But the same thing has been called by somebody in the other side. They call it Azadi Kashmir, right? But what the third party will do? Do you have any idea about that? How to translate the same word where yes, if there is anyone can answer this. Say, for
Disputed,
example, BBC,
disputed territory.
what they will do that. That is a very vague term that can be applied to anything, right? Even a territory that is very close to my home, that is a dispute between me, and dispute is not the politically correct word. And if you are very familiar with, say, the BBC news item, probably you'll be knowing it better. That any other take, if you can try this, I can wait for a few more seconds. Controversial, disputed, all are meaning the same thing, right? Can you think more on that? Without subscribing to whether it is a occupied or a liberated one, can we call it with some neutral word, so that we'll not subscribing to the views of either this government or this government, when I am not belonging to neither of this or that government? Division, no. Astraf says that it's a division. Okay,
A
I'll come to
flashpoint.
that. BBC. Pardon?
A flashpoint in the region.
Flashpoint in the region, no. Actually, BBC and all international broadcasters, reputed broadcasters like Al Jazeera or BBC or Dutch Valley or Russian television and Russia Today, right? And many other independent televisions are available, which are trying to call it without attributing to any position of the governments. They say that uh, Pak administered Kashmir and India administered Kashmir, right? So this is a politically neutral term without uh, subscribing to the occupation and liberation politics, right? So we'll go to the other term, right? How do you define the term? How do you translate the word terrorist?
A militant.
Militant is a neutral word. Militant,
Or
anybody can be. I
a
can be a
fighter.
militant.
A fighter.
Prabharan, fighter,
Intruder.
intruder. Okay. We are all obsessed with what the media is telling, right? What the newspapers that we have been watching is telling, right? If you look at the say that what UN is trying to say on this, right? United Nations was trying to define the term terrorism, right? And they said that it is not possible to define the term as of now, because terrorism or terrorist, right, is a contextual word and politically charged word, and it depends on the perspective from which you are looking at, right? For example, all the independent fighters, all the freedom fighters of India, right? Be it Gandhi or be it Tilak or be it whoever it is, right? Our poet Bharatiyar from Tamil Nadu, he was called a terrorist, right? All his writings were called seditious material for anti-national things. But they are all heroes for us, right? And
Ah.
Bharati is a hero for me, right? And Tilak is the most celebrated hero near Gandhi and whoever not convincible for Bayangravati. Somebody writes in Tamil that it's Bayangravati, but the problem is that it's not Bayangaram, right? It's not Tiruvadi. These are all familiar term that you have been writing from your calling from your own that so-called media, popular media, right? But it's very difficult to define the term because, as I said, that when the term, when the time goes on, then we move on from calling them from terrorist to the hero, right? So it all depends. It's a politically charged word, and it's a contextual word, and so what I'm trying to say is that all the words have to be looked at very carefully, particularly in the news domain, right? And the Middle East countries, yeah, this is the final word that I can't move every word. But how do you call it? Middle East countries. Say, for example, Saudi Arabia is a Middle East country for us, right? Middle East countries. Actually, it's a term coined by Western media, right? For them, yeah.
They are also
For
called Gulf countries. Gulf.
Gulf country, does it refer to the East or West question? No. Gulf is one region, right? One geographic region. But what is a better term to call Middle East countries? Actually, uh, East is for us. It's a Western portion, right? It is not an Eastern part. Us. Bangladesh is east to us. Singapore is east to us. Whereas Saudi is not east to us. It is also a Western country for us, right? But the hegemonic media, right? Mathiya Kilakkanadu, you're trying to translate the same thing in Tamil. But the idea is that that is neither east to us or the middle to us, or that is a completely western part. Anything, even for that matter, Pakistan is a western to the west of us, right? So anything to the west is west. So people from India cannot call Middle East as Middle East because that is a term being coined and promoted by Western media, and we all subscribe without knowing that we are not east, we are not that particular country is not east to us, right? That is west to us. So what is the best way is that they call it Western Asia, West Asia. West Asia is the right word, and you cannot call it Middle East countries, right? Uh, many reputed newspapers, particularly the Hindu, and they don't write it as Middle East, and it's very difficult unless there is a young journalist who is entering into the field newly, and they use the term. The same way uh, disproportionate asset case, where particularly when Jayalalitha was involved in that, that was very brilliantly translated in Tamil, and do or die, unity in diversity. These are the terms that needs to be very carefully translated because the stereotyped aspiration, stereotyped charging of the words and calling it in a particular style is not correct, right? So, next aspect is I will come back to the film language, right? A film has about 5 ways to communicate meaning to the viewer. That is, one is the visual image, the photographic image, right? What is inside the visual, and the graphics is screen, and the third one is speech, fourth one is sound effects, and fifth one is music. So it's a multimodal medium, right? It has different kind of settings to offer the content to us. So uh, essentially these are different layers of meaning, right? Their individual combination establishes the meaning of the individual film text. This combination meanings from different semiotic systems is called multimodality. And the multimodal text or text, those meanings are realized through more than one semiotic code. So This is a multimodal text. So we should be very careful in translating when it is combined with so many things, right? That's what I'm trying to tell you, that you have to translate one particular aspect that alone can do, and you cannot translate the whole thing and call it a film text, right? So this is polysemiotic and multimodal content is the idea. Look at the screen. There are 4 domains, right? One is visual and the other one is acoustic. And if you look at the column, that is non-verbal and verbal. So first domain is visual non-verbal. Second domain is visual acoustic. Third one is verbal visual. Fourth domain is verbal acoustic. Scenery, lighting, costumes, properties, and gesture, facial expression, body movement. These are all domains where you need not bother about anything, right? On the other side, music, background noise, sound effects, and laughter, crying. These are all acoustic, non-verbal expressions. Verbal things are street signs and the shop signs and written materials, for example, newspapers that is inside the film. And the fourth domain is dialogues, poems, and lyrics. Lyrics is the area where the creative team is taking care of, but dialogue is the area that we have been working, right? We are trying to translate the dialogue and speeches which is available in the film script. There are modern tools are available. If you give me a film that I can use, simply convert it into the script, and the SRT files are available online for all the films, and we can take them, and if you convert them into your language, and if simultaneously we can translate in 10 languages, and you can choose one language and that can appear on the screen, and you can switch on to the next one. That is very much possible in the with the modern technologies available. And if I have to go back to a little history of the subtitling and the other way of translating the film, right? Film text particularly. The history of the translation in audiovisual products can be, we can have notice few trends. There are source language countries, right? Countries like certain countries, which is in the contemporary world means English speaking countries such as the United States or the UK, where hardly any films are imported. They don't import any films. If you look at the data that is available, the number of films that we have been consuming, then that is alarming. That I have a data that shows that Hollywood films are being imported and consumed by many world countries, right? And so UK and USA, they normally don't import films, and they don't indulge into translation of film text. The foreign ones tend to be subtitled rather than dubbed. For example, in Britain, film translation does not appear to be a significant issue, as the great majority of imported films are American and that have no translation. And if you look at Poland, you may be knowing about Poland, is listed as the voiceover country. They call them as voiceover country, whereas it mostly uses subtitling in the cinemas, except for some dubbed production of for children. Only if it is a children film, then they translate it into the subtitling. Otherwise, they simply go for voiceover and nothing else is being permitted. And in Spain, if you look at the history between 1936 and 1975, there are over 90 ministerial guidelines orders published, which were a form of prescriptive censorship, showing films in a foreign language was officially banned because of the evil effects of that film release can produce on society. So that when you simply allow the film to come, and for example, in Tamil Nadu, there is no much restrictions on translating of any films, be it Hollywood films or Hindi films, or we simply translate and we put up everything on the public domain and people are consuming it. And particularly in states like Karnataka is very strict in not permitting any kind of translation of international movies. If you want to watch it in their own language, others don't enter into any kind of such kind of businesses. And translation often is seen as a form of conquest, actually, particularly, and can even become an expression of nationalism. That's why that politically it's a very significant domain. That if you want to conquer something, then translation is very much necessary, and that is a very political ideology that will need to be very carefully looked into. And smaller countries like Netherlands, Belgium, Sweden, Portugal, they followed a different path with regard to film translation. Their decision to adopt subtitling as the major translation mode was motivated by several factors. There are many things, because number one, that they have very small population compared to some of the populations were much smaller than Bangalore and Chennai and Bombay, and so they cannot indulge into think about going for dubbing and other things, right? And interesting point that proves American dominance and its narrow-mindedness. Yeah, this is about Oscar films, right? Oscar awards, they call foreign films, where foreign means everything, it is not English. Anything other than non-English is called foreign for them. And they choose only one item from the entire thing, and they don't accept anything other than English, right? That's the politics of the Oscar awards that we have to look into very carefully. And so I'll move on to quickly to the current workshop, where you have to think about two things. One is dubbing and subtitling. These are the two. As I said, voiceover is another thing, and actually many of the political movements, and they screen the film on the streets and tell the story with the help of a mic, and that is being transmitted to transfer the political ideas from to the common man. That is being done. That's called that is being done as a political tool, right? But if you look at normally the standard practice in the industry, and what is being commonly done is one is subtitling, the other one is dubbing. These are the two major forms. We'll look into that very quickly for this workshop, right? And dubbing is the, if you want me to define, that dubbing is the replacement of the original speech by a voiceover, by a voice track. Technically, it's called voice track, which is a faithful translation of the original speech, and which attempts to reproduce the timing, phrasing, and lip movements of the original. So dubbing is the most expensive compared to other forms of translation. Dubbing means if there are 36 characters in a film, then you have to look for 36 voices. One for the old voice, the character in the young voice, and for the medium-sized voice, male, female, and so every character should be replaced with a voice. So dubbing is the most expensive form only when you have a huge market, when you have the commercial value on this, then you can go for dubbing. Otherwise, dubbing is not. But dubbing is most effective. Particularly, I don't know how many of you have watched the Attenborough's film called Gandhi, right? He produced a film Gandhi some 20 years back, and that is one of the most that was produced by National Film Development Corporation of India, and British director Attenborough was the director, and Ben Kingsley was the main actor there, and they have translated into many films. And I watched once Tamil version of the film, where I felt that Gandhi and particularly Tilak and Nehru, they're all, I felt that they're all talking in my own mother tongue. Such a kind of very careful choice of people, of voices, and the translation, especially syncing is most important on this. Yeah, voice, the lip syncing is more important, and particularly the voice, the bass voice, and the kind of the vocal cord that you have been choosing, and the rhythm, and the same in which the original voice was delivered. So such a kind of, I would recommend you to watch the Tamil, the whatever version that is available in your language, right? If you are from Tamil Nadu, you watch the Tamil version of Gandhi film, you feel that film has been produced in Tamil language. And there are plenty of films we can quote, and one of the well-produced and best-produced film is Gandhi. And in dubbing, the translators have to be faithful not only in the theatrical sense but also in terms of phonological synchronization. So as one of the participants mentioned about it, that sync, the voice lip sync. Only when you see that, when you are happy with the lip sync, then you'll feel that you are watching your own film. Otherwise, you'll be completely alienated from the film, and you'll find it very difficult to understand the film. And there are a lot of disadvantages that it is common sense that we know that what could be the disadvantages of them, and sense of it it decreases the sense of otherness and is an excellent example of domestication. Actually, if you want to make the film to make a more powerful political tool, then you have to very carefully make it. The otherness, right? We need not, the people are looking in different colors, and when Indians, most of the Indians are like me, that they're all in, not in fair skinned. And when you see some films with full of fair-skinned people, then we may feel it something which is not close to our mind and heart, right? So the kind of otherness is controlled when you have a very powerful dialogue and a very powerful translation of content. So dubbing is most effectively and most successfully being used as a tool for bringing the domestication of the film. And there are some kind of pros and cons which I will leave you to read it later, right? And subtitling, the second method with which one can do is subtitling. So I'll define the term that subtitling can be defined as the rendering in a different language of the verbal message in a filmic media in the shape of one or more lines of written text presented on the screen in sync with the original written message. You have to place the screen, you have to place the text on the screen in tune with the word that is being pronounced by the speaker or the actor in the screen. There are two things. One is the viewer will find it very difficult to read your text and watch the film, right? And that is will be a challenging one. Number two, we are intruding into the creative domain of the directors. Even one square inch of film that cannot be compromised, and will not be allowed to touch on that. Whereas you are putting a huge strip on the film screen, and when we are putting some text on there, then it will be definitely compromising on the artistic quality of the frame of the particular film. So there is this, but it is very simple that preparing subtitle and putting online or putting imposed on a film is very, very easy, and there are very beautiful tools are available, and any film can be quickly made into our own mother tongue without much cost, right? You need not search for any kind of musicians or dubbing artists or nothing, right? Even recording is not required. You can just I can simply demonstrate that very quickly, that how you can prepare a subtitle text that can be superimposed on a film without taking much problem on that, right? So this is, and if you look at the best practices followed in the subtitling, I would say that people are trying to translate 40 to 60% or 75%. The research says that it's only between 40 to 75%. You can't translate fully from the text as if so that you can, because the viewer will not read the entire text to understand that. So that is what that is being. And yes, we do subtitle in English and Indian languages in my. Okay. And simple like this is preferred, and there are some disadvantages available there, and subtitle obscure the parts of the picture, that is the disadvantages. And there are some good practices that is being practiced in the industry. Number one, 3 seconds of screen time per line, no more than 2 lines at once. One line should not exceed 37 characters. These are all the in Chinese films are placed vertically. Okay. Actually, there are 3 best practice are being followed and being advocated. One is 3 seconds per line, right? If you are you have to allow the reader to watch it, at least you have to allow for 3 seconds. Second one is not more than 2 lines at once. You can't give 4 lines or 2.5 lines or 3 lines. Normally, the human mind, human eye cannot associate with that to understand that. The third one is you cannot have more than 37 characters. I'm not talking about Japanese or Chinese, but all Indian languages, for at least for that matter, we can have 37 characters maximum. This is the standard being worked out by professionals across the world. And no subtitle could appear for less than 1 second, or with the exception of songs, right? You cannot have it for less than 1 second. A minimum of 4 frames should be left. You have to allow 4 frames so that one subtitle to the next one will be given some time for the eye to understand and comprehend. And as we see that the third option is voiceover. Voiceover is a technique in which a disembodied voice can be heard over the original soundtrack, which remains audible but indecipherable to the audiences. And this is one of the uh, because this is one of the most effective, but that is not the cost wise, it's very economical and very simple also, right? And one thing that you have to understand is same language subtitling. Much research has been conducted. Normally, we play a film that has been. I have a documentary done by BBC which insists on the role of same language subtitling. Think about, actually, in the previous session, that when I was just joining at the end of the previous session, I heard that one of the argument was about audio subtitling, right? Particularly people with the challenges and people who do not have the literacy skills, right? And these things are very helpful. And the same language subtitling, very effective, and particularly for new literates and for people with multiple challenges. And subtitles challenge film from audiovisual medium to more literary medium, which requires a greater level of attention from a viewer. So this has its own challenge. And I can leave a link to watch the film, which will tell you that how to the best ideas of it. Now we'll see the mechanics of a script quickly so that we can go to the practice, right? BBC has prepared a guide on this, that how to understand the script. I can share the script also. That says that there are, if you want to know that a formal professional script of a film will start with the scene headings. Scene heading tells the reader where the particular scene takes place, where we are standing. Particularly, filmmakers, that how do they shoot, right? Is it, for example, I think it has been given, right? Exterior, interior, the two levels only. Whether it is outside the studios or inside the studios, and which place it is. Is it right or day or night? And what kind of plan that, what kind of story is being telling that, right? So the first one is scene heading. Second one is character name. Character name is always given in capital letters, so that you need not worry about that, right? So that who is talking, right? And who is delivering the particular the dialogue that is being given there. And the character name is given all capital letters, and anything that followed the character name is called dialogue. So dialogue is simply every word we hear on the screen, and everything that comes out of everyone's mouth, whether we see them on the screen or not. So somebody will be disembodied, or somebody will be appearing on the screen, and you have to translate them. And there will be some comments about the transition, right? From how the movie move from one person to the other, camera transition, editing transition, other techniques are being given there. And so this is enough to understand how to translate a movie text, and some tips are given. The issue of power in translation seems to be especially pertinent and applicable to contemporary cinema. Translation does not take place between words, but rather between cultures. This is very powerful argument, right? It's not about, as I said, that it's not about translating the words, right? You are translating the story. That is the point. Translating the story is very important. So understanding the culture is more important. So storytelling is very important, and it's a storytelling. And I remember one anecdote that I have to tell you, that when I was working as a journalist in a newspaper, I love to translate a lot of stories, right? So one common uh, dictum, right, that is being placed there in the editorial board, that is read, and then uh, we have to understand that, right? Read and understand, then forget the words that is being given in the source language, English or something. Throw it to the next level and write down your own story. So read, forget the source storytelling method, and write down your own thing. This is one of the common practice that still the newspaper where I worked is following, that I have to, because if you look at the PTI, I know that many of you know about Press Trust of India and United News of India and AP, Reuters. These are all international news agencies. They give the stories to all the newspapers, same stories being given, right? But when we buy 3 or 5 different language newspapers, say for example 5 papers from the same language, the stories will not appear on the same level, right? Except the stories filed by their own journalist, the newspaper depends mostly 50% to 60% of the stories are being borrowed or being translated from the wire services, where the same story is being given to all the newspapers, but we are reading differently because they know what kind of readers that we are being reading that. So the same should be applicable to the translating the film text also. You are trying to translate a story, so you cannot just translate the same words as if, right? And domestication of translation into a translation and invisible to other minimize the foreignness of the target text. Yeah, the foreignness. When we, as we saw that some of that text, some of the words that is very familiar and very common in, say, France, that can be contextualized and that can be domesticated, and that will help you to make them the feel from the otherness of the film, right? We'll feel as if the film has been translated into our own. Now, I'll play 1 or 2 minutes. I think we have only 15 minutes. So I'll play a film of, this is the film by Life of Pi by one of the popular director and award film, and watch it for say 2-3 minutes, and we'll discuss about how to translate the text, right? Yeah.
In the end.
Good boy.
Huh?
You were going to tell me how you got your name, I think.
Oh, yes, Mamaji. Mamaji collects swimming pools. He swims in every.
Hope it's audible also, right?
My father, coffee with it. That a single swim there changed his life.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, Ashraf.
One day to swim in the piscine molitor. I tale. Imagine me trying to explain that name.
Look at him, he is missing.
With
Oh, missing in the schoolyard. He said missing, guys.
when we returned the next year for our first day of school, I was prepared.
Good morning. I am piscine monitor, which is also used in mathematics to represent the ratio of
Okay, I'll stop it here because to make it easy to understand that I have to stop it now. Now, the film has a lot of dialogues, right? We have to translate the dialogue so that this can be parallelly done on different languages, right? How to do that? There are SRT files, as I told you already. It is called. It has many things. One is the first one is time code, right? Actually, this has been generated with the tool called Subtitle Workshop. Subtitle Workshop is a common open source tool available freely for us to download. You can download that, and that will ask for the film to upload, right? You have to download the subtitling workshop, right? Subtitle workshop. I can share the link, right? Give me 1 second so that I'll before the end of the class I'll share that, right? You go and download that. You just install in the machine, open it, and upload whatever 10 minutes film or 3 hour film that you have to upload that. As soon as you upload it, then it will ask for typing the typing the material, right? So this is available. On the other hand, you can do with the you can generate SRT files with the help of subtitling workshops, right? So it has one is time code. Time code is automatically generated. You have to define the time code. Say for example, 3 seconds and 58 microseconds to 4 seconds. The first sentence is, so you are raised in a zoo. That was the first the dialogue being delivered by the one of the character in the film. The second dialogue is born and raised in born and raised. Third one is in Pondicherry. In what was the foreign? It was the French part of India. And then fourth dialogue is my father owned the zoo. So it goes on, right? So people who want to translate can translate it in your own language and type it in the subtitling workshop. That will create the file. It will save as a SRT file, and SRT files can be uploaded with the film that you have been watching or film you have been showing it. And there are very simple tools available where you can just upload the SRT files in the so that the film will bring the same title subtitle into your screen very easily. I can present it offline, but I don't know how to demonstrate this in the online mode. So this gives you to translate the entire content. But what I would suggest is don't go for translating it word by word or the entire, as we discussed earlier, that you have to tell the story. Telling the story is more important than translating every word given in the text. So collect the SRT file or generate your own SRT file and try to tell the story in very simple languages, right? So for example, so you were raised in a zoo. You born and brought up in a zoo. That should be translated into in very simple idea, and then you have to translate, right? So don't worry about this. Don't pick up the same word or syllable from the source language, and you have to tell the story. And the story can be translated in different forms. For example, the listener A can translate it in his own language. If it is translated into Malayalam, if there are four students are translating it, the four different versions will be very interesting, right? We will all will create different kinds of text and stories, and everything will more writer in you will bring your best translation, right? It's not about the vocabulary and the translation skills, but movie translation, and be it for a short film or a feature film or a documentary film or whatever it is, that if you want to translate a movie text, then the basic idea that I would recommend is that be a storyteller. You should be a storyteller, and you should be able to tell the story in a proper way. I'll stop it now.